G'day everyone, it's John Powderly here. We're going to go through the basics of front kick today. And front kick, even though it seems like not particularly the most exciting kick, not the most fancy kick, not the sort of kick you see in martial arts movies, it's an awesome kick. In my sparring days, when I was much younger and had more hair, it was a pretty lethal kick. And I know it's something that gets through the guard very easily and surprises people. And it works in really well with other combinations too. So today what I want to go through is some basics of how to get your front kick working really well and make sure it's not useless because you can be throwing something out there that's really not doing much at all. So the common mistakes that I see are people kicking too low. So when they kick and it lands on the pad or the bag, they're ending up kicking somewhere like thigh or groin height. And as an opponent, that's going to be very easy to block, check, get out of the way. It's not going to get through my guard. And I'm going to move away from that very easily. So that's the first point. The second point is that it's often a round movement. So instead of it being a straight kick, it should come straight into the guts there in that straight angle. Instead of being like so, it's often got this round motion, like so, upwards. And when that strikes your opponent, all that's going to do is graze them, maybe annoy them a little bit, but it's not going to pack that punch. Imagine the difference between a straight punch and doing something that's straight up like that. If that was an uppercut to the jaw, that'd be great. But if that was a technique to the midsection, that wouldn't really work so well. The last thing, well, perhaps another thing as well, is not enough hip extension. So hip extension, this movement here, gets you about another 6 inches of motion and 6 inches of reach, and that's really, really essential, I think, especially when you're sparring and you want to reach somebody. The whole idea of a kick is that you're getting the reach. Someone like myself, I'm not a big guy, but I can get to people with my kicks a lot easier than I can with my punches. My kicks also pack a lot more punch. I don't weigh 100 kilos, so my arms aren't going to be as strong as some of the bigger guys who are punching, but when I throw out a kick, that's a whole lot of weight and speed going in, and that's going to hurt. The last thing is toe posture. Toe posture will work on, if the toes are pointing out like a ballet dancer, you're going to hurt yourself. You're just going to cause damage to yourself and not much to your opponent. All right, so let's go through just a couple of things. First thing I'll cover is just some stretching. One of the things you need to do to get a proper front kick is get a nice high heel lift. So this comes up and then gets thrown out. So it's up and out, like so. And that high heel lift is the key. If it's not coming up high, if that knee's not coming up on your heel, not coming up into your groin or close to your groin, you're not going to get a good kick. So one of the good stretches you want to work on is a lunge stretch. So lunging forward, lunging. I've got my foot flat here, so if I turn side on for this one, foot flat, lunge. And if you really want to make this a pretty tough one, grab hold of your rear foot and pull that in. And then you're stretching all the way through the hip flexors, the quadriceps, all the way down to the knee. And that sort of stretch is really going to help you get this motion. If you're going deep in your lunge as well, you might also start to feel it in this front gluteal area also. So that's a really nice stretch. Obviously hamstring stretches as well, because if you've got a nice easy reach like so, if you can swing your leg up and reach over your head with a leg swing, then you'll be able to very easily do your front kick to the right area. If you haven't got much flexibility, you're going to struggle to get there. So I would recommend hamstring stretches, and the best and safest way to do hamstring stretches, sitting on the ground, leg bent up, reaching forward, and think about getting your chest and belly down towards your thigh as opposed to your forehead down to your knee. And edging forward, doesn't matter what you get, but holding it there. Stretching should be easy, it shouldn't be excruciating. So holding that steady. If you want to get a good stretch, you probably want to hold that for a minute plus in that stretching position. So that's a couple of stretches to work on to help get you that flexibility so that you can do the right thing. I would practice, if you want to get that heel lift, I would practice just a drill of just getting the knee nice and high before, and you've watched, maybe you could slow this down, I'll slow it down. get your foot posture right in this position. So get that right. We'll work on that in just a minute. But I would work on this, drill this, so that when it comes to doing the kick, you're ready, okay? So drill, 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 and then your kick will come out nicely, all right? So that's a couple of things to think about there. We'll move on to some next steps. The next thing I want you to think about is getting that hip extension. So the difference, if you watch the reach between me throwing out a kick, that's not much more reach than my punch. Throwing out a kick without hip extension versus with hip extension, I get a lot more reach there. I can stay at a safe distance from my opponent and still be able to reach them. It's a really good kick, really fast kick. And when you're putting that together with some punches, you know, it can get in there very quickly and they don't even see that coming. It's really nice. Even if they've got a good guard, you'll be able to slip that front kick right in there. It's one of my favourite kicks. It's just beautiful. Right, so think about that hip extension. So the way I think about that is as you're getting near the end of your technique, you're just reaching forward. That's an essential part of the kick. If you're not doing that, you're not going to get a great front kick. All right, we're going to move on to the next bit, and this is about toe posture. All right, so get yourself a wall at the dojo, nice solid brick walls, and some of you who have been in my classes will know this drill. Two things here. You can see my feet. What I want to do is I want to practice being able to extend the foot. See, I've got that ballet dancer position. I've extended my foot completely, and now I keep my foot in the same position, and I just pull the toes back. That's a really good drill because that position there is my front kick position. If you can't get that, I see people when they do this, they pull the whole foot up and then down, and they can't do that separately. So that's a nice drill for yourself, just drilling toe position. If you want to get a bit fancier, you can sort of alternate toes and feet, and they'll start getting you ready for some other kicks as well. Here's the wall drill, really simple. Now, if I had a belt on in my dobok or gi, then what I'd do is I'd you know, around the belly button, I want to hit someone belly button or higher. This is the area they call solar plexus. Gee, if you get someone there, that really hurts and knocks the stuffing out of them. So somewhere in between there, let's say just above my belly button. I get myself up against the brick wall. I got my eye on that brick. That's the brick that I need to hit. If I'm hitting a brick or two below there, that's not much of a kick. I'm not going to get him in the right place. Remember, if it's coming low, it's very easy to guard that, to catch that. Coming up higher, it's a lot harder, especially if it's straight. All right, so here's my brick. Where is it again? There it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be kicking like so. Now, after a few of those, I'm going to start to get a better technique. And what you'll hear, if you hear that, is the sound of my foot whacking the wall. Not hard, you don't want to bruise yourself. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to place this. Like so. Place. Placing your foot isn't repeating the pattern, driving in that pattern of what you want to achieve for your opponent. You're not going to place your foot on their stomach. You're going to drive your foot in. So have some control. At the start, you may not feel in that control. You might start to place it, and then after a while, you can get that just gently bouncing. If you do that wrong, you'll know straight away because your toes will jam into the wall. That'll be instant feedback for you. So that's a really good drill to get the toe posture right. Remember, if you haven't got that toe posture, you're not doing a proper front kick, you're doing something else. Imagine dragging your toes up the front of someone's abdomen. It might scratch them a little bit, but it's not going to do a whole lot. Close as I've got to an opponent right now. And here's where we want to see the action of my kick and putting it all together. So if I'm, like I said earlier, if I'm doing that, that sort of kick, see that upward kick? Now, that's doing two things. One, my toe just got caught. That didn't feel great. Two, all my energy is going upwards. You notice the bag's not moving much. Now that's a, I don't know, Trav, what that is, 60, 70 kilo bag, 80 kilo bag maybe. That's pretty heavy. Tried to lift it before. That's probably weighs more than me. So I want to set that moving. And that'll be a good yardstick for me. When you've got a partner who's got a pad, you should be able to push them back a few steps with your front kicks. You should be able to make them feel uncomfortable. So that's important with your front kick. So, remember the steps. It's high knee lift, hip motion, toe posture, and it's a straight kick. I didn't put much into that, but let's get that happening now. Okay, so I'm back in my position, and we're getting a bit of movement there. Okay, do a good front kick, a big good noise out of the bag. If you're in an opponent, a big good noise out of your opponent too. That's good fun. So you'll get good feedback. You don't want to feel like your opponent's doing nothing and they just take you, no worries. That's not all that effective. Now, one last thing that I see with kicks is people pausing and stopping, a little bit like that foot placement earlier. Now when you're doing that, you'll never be able to get your kick right. Your kick has got to start from the get-go. My foot's on the ground, and the movement between my foot and hitting the pad, I want to be fast and smooth. So I don't want to, number one, I don't want to telegraph. Do that before I start kicking. I don't want to lift and then kick. I don't want to lift and then kick and, do something else. I want this movement from my foot to the pad, straight. Okay, what I meant by straight was smooth. There's no action. Now, if you're not confident with that, slow it down. Okay, nice and smooth. Slow it down. Lift, like so. So start slow, smooth, no pauses, and then as you get better, you can speed that up. All right? One last thing. I think I said that before, didn't I? One last thing. This is truly one last thing. Is recoil. There's different types of kicks. Some of these kicks, like turning kicks, you can stay in with that opponent. Some are more of a snappy kick. It's a bit like the difference between a jab and a cross that's going to be maybe staying in there. With a front kick, I'm a fan of pulling that back out of the way because you can do a few other things. You can land down properly. You've got all your options open to you. You can spring back. Traditional karate, tournaments and so on, they won't actually score a point unless you pull back, like so. However important that is to you, it may or may not be. But you can. Opponents coming into you, rushing you, crowding you, you want to be able to pull back. Opponents not, they're moving away. You're down, you're following up with some other techniques. You might want to be a bit fancy and hit them again with something else. All right, you've got options. When your foot springs back, you can land down and you're balanced. Your foot is balanced, you're ready to go. All right, so that's the last thing. So just to recap on those main points. So high knee lift, extension of the hips. The movement is a straight movement, it's not an upward movement. Your toe posture, pulled back, feet extended. You want to recoil and it wants to be a smooth motion. So that's a couple of things to focus on, a couple of things to think about with your front kick. Get that front kick right. It's a really, really good kick, and you don't want to be taken by the fancy kicks. I love side kicks and turning kicks and all those things. They're awesome, but front kick is probably my most reliable and one that I go to. If I'm under threat, I want to score on an opponent quickly, put that in with some combinations. Front kicks, it's hard to beat. It's really, really good. So this was just the basic front kick. So in Hapkido, as we teach from the rear foot and landing back down, I'll go over next time some other versions of that. So let's have a bit of fun. We'll go over some ones where you're coming from front foot, from turning, from stepping up, jumping, all that sort of stuff. And we'll go over that. But get your basics down, work on that, and we'll see you again next time.